if I had a historic home and I wanted to replace the windows, where would I start? Would I be able to do that? Would I be restricted in what I could put in? And those sorts of things, those sorts of questions came up. And also, if I was a developer coming into the city and I wanted to tear a house down that was on a piece of property and it was an older home, is it historically designated? What kind of protections are in place? You know, what kind of permits could we be issued for that, and how that process work? And we found out that by going through these questions in this process, that that there was some holes in what was available for people to find out more about, and that there was not really a cohesive plan in place as a one-stop source for people to find out answers, or for staff at the city to easily access and have consistent material to rely upon when dealing with these inquiries. And I have been involved, I'm a real estate agent now, and I've been involved in 2 transactions in the city that involved historic properties. One was subdivided and had a historic home on it that was on the survey, and another one that is on a large piece of property that was actually an escrow to be torn down and have townhomes built on it, that my client bought and is now remodeling it and was able to save it from the wrecking ball on that too. So, and that was not on the survey or protected in any way, and it's the Kramer House on Angelina. So, so the last survey was in 2002, and it is outdated, as it was explained earlier. Typically, the surveys get updated every 10 years. And so it's been over 20 years since our survey has been updated. So I'll be going through the slides and showing you more information about that. But real quick before we get started, so by a raise of hands, how many people here have been to either Old Town Orange, Old Town Tustin, or the Los Rios district down in San Juan Capistrano? Okay, those are vibrant, wonderful communities, and they have a great preservation plan in place. And Tustin just updated theirs, and it took them a few years to go through, but we've been looking for them as a model for Placentia on costs and time frames and resources for that. So Placentia, like Larry said, is at a turning point. We do have a Metrolink station that's going to be put in place, and as everybody has probably seen, the large apartment buildings that have been built south of the tracks, you know, development is on its way, and it is here. And without a comprehensive preservation plan in place, there is not a lot of protection for what's here now. And so I'm going to run through the slides for you and show you what we came up with on the historical committee, and some of the recommendations that we have. So we talked about over 50 years old for qualifying for a historic status, and the Cinderella homes are one of them. And the I'm calling it the Angelina House. That's a ranch-style mid-century house. The Round Table, their new clubhouse was built in the 60s, and that would qualify. It's a real nice mid-century. Yeah, it's a real nice mid-century design. I don't know if you drive down Yorba Linda Boulevard, just past where Kramer is on the right-hand side. My veterinarian used to be there, Dr. Evans's office. That's a nice little mid-century building there too. If you happen to drive down, take a look at it. I would definitely want to recommend that for the survey. So, you know, you get an eclectic group of architectural resources, and it keeps our city interesting and has a lot of variation, and that draws people in. You know, we want to keep the historical resources add value to cities, not only culturally, but also economically. These old town areas that are preserved become like a historic resource that is, people will come here for that. You know, it's what they call it, historic tourism. People like to step back in time, they're nostalgic, so we want to have that in Placentia too. So let me get started here. So we put together, and you know, something I brought in, and we've already seen some examples of this. We have some historical landmark brochures. We have the tour here. We even put on a tour back in 2003 by the Historical Committee of different properties here in Placentia. And what we've come up with is something that is like a comprehensive goes from all these different, pieces, bits and pieces and paperwork of things all into a comprehensive plan here. And I can pass this around, you can take a look at it, and it's condensed here in the PowerPoint. But it consists of, it's based on, we do have citywide ordinances that are in place for historic preservation. And there's the general plan laid out 16 goals to follow to put a plan in place, and that's what we're working on and what we're proposing. So there are ordinances in place for protection, but we want to add an extra layer by having the survey updated and having these properties identified so that they are able to come under purview if development comes up, especially in the downtown area, or establish a district, much like they have in Old Town Orange. So let's see if I can do this. I'll do it by hand if I need to.
It's to be frozen if you just try again. No?
It must be the Bradford ghost.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it by hand.
There you go, you might need to.
Okay, so we have, this is what we came up with as our intent. The next step in historical preservation, protecting the unique character of neighborhoods and preserves history of the city and provides guidance for city staff and homeowners. And we have a website that we're putting in place to, I see, so Dion is up, okay. So benefits for preservation guidance for residents. So part of our preservation proposal is architectural guidelines to help people understand and educate them about the style of their house, what's appropriate as far as remodeling the exterior. The interior isn't as important, but we like to see them try and save as much as possible, but the exterior is the most important. Attracting the heritage tourism and sustainable development, adaptive reuse. Why tear it down if you can use it for some other use and make it, keep it viable? So our general plan in 2019 had these goals, and these are listed out here. And updating the historic survey is the beginning of it, is kind of the key part of it, because you can't really, until you identify the historic properties, none of this will make sense. So we have the historical resources. These are the municipal code that's in place. And right now, the Bradford House and the George Key Ranch are listed on the National Historic Registry. No other properties in Placentia are. The properties that are on the survey, so if you owned a property that was on the survey, which I represented for sale a few years ago, the question that came in was always, can I tear this house down and build something else on it? And I said, I'm not really sure. I wasn't on the historical committee, or I was brand new on it. And so I learned through the process of asking the questions, and because this wasn't available, and this is the thing, people they can't find the information that's needed to answer these questions. So the house was on the survey. However, there's nothing to protect it from being torn down. There is what's called a discretionary permit for demolition. And if a house is flagged as being on the survey, it would go through the planning commission process. And if the planning commission determined that the house could be torn down, it wasn't significant enough to save, then it would be torn down with any other public purview. Now, if the planning commission rejected it and it went to city council, then it would be put to public purview and be done as a public hearing. But right now, properties can be torn down without going through the public hearing process, just through a discretionary permit. So we don't want that to happen. If something is considered historic and worth saving, we would like to see more people weighing in on that. But that's what's in place right now. So here's some of Placentia's history. Again, we had the wide open fields that are now homes. And as the city develops and developers come in, because it's a perpetual cycle of always needing to have that economic growth in the city, the trend then is to tear things down and build in that same place. And the downtown area is already underway, and because there is nothing protecting it as a district or in place, there's a danger of having widespread demolition or areas that could be significantly altered and would therefore, you can't put back what was there before historically. So it's nice to be able to think about putting something in place, at least to have a public opinion to weigh in on it. So we have on the 2002 historical survey, another thing we found through our research was that of the buildings that were listed, some of them have historical plaque sites, which is another program we have through the historical committee. Some of them have already been demolished, and there are 10 additional homes or buildings that are not included on the survey. So it's a little inconsistent, and by redoing the survey and having a professional organization do it, it will clean it up and get everything included. So this is on the 2002 survey. This is the Baston home, as was already mentioned. It's on Birkenstock. There's other homes that are on the survey. So there's a home at 1731 North Bradford, which is right behind the Crossroads Shopping Center, and that's the Parati House. And it's a beautiful home, but it's in Fullerton. So it is a Placentia family, but because of the way that the property was developed behind it and the family, they decided to annex it into Fullerton. The packing houses are gone except for the one that was already pointed out. Homes that should be protected that are not on a survey, and the 1988 survey is not utilized because of its age. So this is 410 Angelina. This is an example of what a property owner can do, and this is voluntary. The man who bought this property, his name is Roger Alec, and Alec is a family that's been in Placentia for a long time. He's a descendant of the early pioneers, and this is the Kramer house that was built by Samuel and Edna Kramer in 1949, and it's an example of a mid-century California ranch home. And as you can see, it's a very large home. It's over 6,000 square feet, and it's all single story, and it's on about an acre of property. And I represented Roger in the purchase of this home. It took us about 2 years or so of working together with the owner and waiting for it to fall out of escrow, because it was in escrow to be demolished and townhomes built on the site. So he had inquired about the property while it was in escrow, and I was able to get him in there to see it, and I had a feeling it was going to fall out of escrow because of the price of the property was far and above what a developer would be able to pay and make money by building those homes on it. So with my background in that, I had a feeling it was going to fall out of escrow, so I just told him to be patient, and we worked with the owner, and she wouldn't budge on her price. She had quite a high price set for the property. But they settled in on a price, and the sale went through, and he's now remodeling the property. And this is all done voluntarily. This house was not on a survey. It was not historically protected. It would have been covered if the survey were updated. It would then be put on it. He would be approached to do that. So, you know, the Mills Act is also a protection that's in place, but that's also voluntary. So I'd like to have an extra layer of protection by having properties on the survey. So these are a list of, this is just a quick graph of cities that have preservation plans in place and that also have a brochure or pamphlet that they hand out. And we would still want to do the brochure because people like to come in and get things handed out to them so they can take it home and look at it. But we are also implementing a comprehensive website that we're hoping that eventually will have properties on it that have an interactive map that you can click on a property and see if it's historically designated or not. And then also for people coming into the area, they can see where our historic resources are. They can come see the Bradford House. They can come see the George Key Ranch. They can come visit downtown Placentia. So, and wrapping up, we do have the driving tour of the handout that you have coming in. I encourage you to take a drive by these properties this afternoon. And, you know, we do need to have more support in our community for this. The Planning Commission did come to the City Council with this and ask them about updating the survey and implementing this plan. And so the City Council said, yes, let's move ahead with it. So an ad hoc committee was formed, which is 2 of our council members. One of them is here today, and 3 of the historical committee members. And we've been working together to start moving forward on finding out resources, costs, timeframes on implementing this preservation plan that we've put together. So how can you help? So some suggestions for those of you here to think about. First of all, go on the driving tour and look at our beautiful historic properties. Attend city council meetings. City council meetings can be seen online too. You don't have to go in person. You can also become a member of our historical committee. We have applications here. It's a wonderful group. We meet once a month, Tuesday evenings at the end of the month, the last Tuesday of the month down at City Hall. And you get to be a part of the advisory process for our city and be involved in the government that way. And also, I'd like to ask that you support our downtown businesses. Go into the historic areas and see what's down there. We have some wonderful restaurants and shops down in the downtown area. So again, we have applications here for the historical committee. If you have any questions about that, you can ask Larry or Kathy or myself about that. And yeah, any of the other processes. Hopefully, I've made some sense. And thank you.
Well, I want to certainly thank Lisa and Kathy and Dr. DeGraff for helping us with this presentation. If you didn't get, the Historical Committee has free postcards with historical buildings. It's on the table as you exit. We have an art show here next week with local residents. If you are or know someone who would like to have an art show here, John Walchuk is the man to contact, or call the Bradford House. We're having at least one other, and this is on the entry table. And if you're interested in the Bradford House, these are our old brochures. We currently have new ones being designed by Eldorado's design group for us, Eldorado High School. And so we will have new ones. Judy's working on that real soon. But there is information in here about the Bradford House, even though some of it's a bit out of date. And in the end, there's a way you can join. You can send it in to us with a check for whatever, $20. And of course, the Historical Committee is asking for a $1 donation for these because it costs them 90 cents to print. They don't have much of a budget. So if you'd like one of any of these things, they are in the front area as you exit. And any other last minute questions? We're so pleased that you were all here. And we are having a second presentation here in the Historical Society on your date,
On the 26th of
March, and it will
last
be
Sunday in March.
and it will be a discussion by
Mary Kastner and her friend Irene Chiatani. And Mary Kastner, her father was one of the foremen who worked for different growers, and so he would know about the citrus, and so she would live on the different locations with her father as he changed jobs. And she's going to talk about living in one of those houses on Bradford Avenue. And her friend was relocated during the Second World War to one of the concentration camps, one of the relocation camps. And so we're going to talk about how her farm was saved by the local other farmers. And so we'll talk about those things.
So if you know someone who is an old resident, older than even me, of Placentia, who would like to perhaps listen or even contribute to that group discussion we're going to have, please contact Kathy. So thank you all.
Yes, the last.
Yes, and come also. We'll have another flyer and information out. Any last minute questions for any of our speakers or Kathy? Okay, thank you all so much.